Welcome back. Today's videos is on Python basics. We're going to be looking at basic input and output. So, without further ado, let's jump straight into it. Now, this is my setup environment. I'm running my code from a local machine. Now, this is by no means the only way of doing this. I just prefer to have everything on my local machine. Feel free to use available tools online, like I don't know, replate.com, I think. And if I'm not mistaken, there's also Visual Code online. This is a visual code. So, but the principle remain the same. You can practice your Python easily and have your output. So, like I said, today we'll be looking at the input output. And if you've noticed from my previous videos, I've been using this for outputting the content of our variables. So that gives us another chance to be able to test our code. So remember how we created variables, and there are many types. So there's a variable type that is your string or text, basically. And then we have another one that is your text is anything that has a quote inside, a double quote, sorry, single quote, double quote, and a text inside. So it could be something like that, or it could be something like this with a value of this kind. So that's a string. And by the way, this is all green because in Python, anything that is start with a hashtag is seen as comment text and not as code. So if you just want to add some note or comments or anything, feel free to use a hashtag and then write your comment. And if you go to a new line, it's you remember to add another hashtag. So that those are the options that you have. Then we also look at another type. This is just a quick revision on what we went through. That was an integer. So it's an int. And an int is anything, any whole number, positive or negative. That could be a minus 30, or it could be a 50, or it could be 1,000. So those are integers. And then we also look at floats. And floats are basically your decimal numbers, positive or negative. That's going to be a 3.567, or it's going to be 80.754. So 89,754. So those are your floats. And then we have your basic one, which is your Boolean. So Booleans are basically your two values. It's going to be true or it's going to be false. So that's what you're looking at. And that summarizes everything from. So let's jump straight into it. So let's say we have a variable, and a variable can be given any name, but you're gonna remember to give it something that is follow the guidance of Python. So you're not gonna have anything of this that's not gonna work, but you can have something like this underscore equal, and then you can give it a value that you want. It is a number or text or boolean or value. So we're going to create a variable called name. I love that. Name. And then we assign the equal sign is used, and we're going to look into operators later on, but we're going to be using that. Sorry, this is just one of those things that we have to use from the get-go to kind of show you how it works, but then explain them later. And I'm sure by the time we get to explain them, it makes so much, I hope it's going to make so much sense because you would have seen the practical way of using those. So equal sign is the operator that we're using to assign a value to a variable. So whenever you use this, you're actually assigning. There are many other options, ways of using this equal sign, but now we're going to stick to the basics. So name is equal to single double quote, and we're going to say Pat. Let's say Pat. Now, this is where the print, remember we are looking at print and output. Print, let's say we're gonna be, let's use another way of displaying those three quotes. So we're looking at prints and outputs and outputs, outputs, out, output. Good. So that's what we're looking at. So we're going to use print. Like I said, Python is very, I mean, I like the simplicity. I mean, you don't have to think about what's going to come out when you're using the word print, do you? So, so that's going to be print, and then how you pass a value to be printed, you open a bracket and you close a bracket. So, not square bracket. No, that means something different. So we're looking at that print, and then we pass the name of the variables. Also, if you don't have a variable, you can actually pass the name of or the text that you would like to be printed. Still gonna give you the same value. So print this, and we're gonna say run our Python code, print this. That comes out. So those are options. Or you can even say print. I'm not sure how that's gonna come out, but yes, give it a try. Let's say print 5. What does it do? It prints 5. You can pass a number. You can pass a float. You're still gonna get print 5. And you can also pass a value of a boolean like that and ask it to print, and it's going to print true because that's the value passing in. But in this case, we're going to pass a variable that we have here. So then we're going to say print path, and that's exactly. So it goes into the content. It looks at the variables. It's not going to print name because what you would expect here to probably see name. No, because Python is smart enough to know, hey, this is a variable, and therefore we're going to print the value. So what happened if we comment that out and we run the code? You see, error, name is not defined in line 31. So it says, look, there's a problem here. This is not defined. It's not a number. It's not. But the question that you ask, but how come it's able to print 5, but it cannot print name? Why? Why? It's a good question. So name is, first of all, it's not recognized. It's not a, I can put it, it's not Python, it's not recognizable by Python. Unlike true, unlike 5, unlike a number, digits, those are stuff that Python can easily recognize, but name can be anything. And therefore, you need to specify what exactly that is. It's not in the list of things that Python will say, well, I kind of know what this guy is trying to ask me to print. So hence why it's throwing that error to say, look, I don't know what this guy is, who he is, what's coming from. I may have heard of him, but I need more clarity on that. Give me something to work with. And that's when we bring that in and we say, look, this is a variable, and look into it and print it. That's what it does. And then if you go back again and say, oh, well, now I understand what's going on. It's a variable, and you just want to know what's inside that variable. Yes, I want to know. So now we also have, that's a hard coded version. So imagine do you have, if this is your code and you using an app, for example, you're not going to hard code the name of a user. You want the user to enter their name for whatever processing or role or whatever it is that you want to run behind the scene. You don't want them to just use what's there or select from a drop down. You want them to enter their name and you do some processing about it. So the other option is simple. You just put input. So that's what it's going to be, input. And in the input, you can specify a text. Let's say enter your name. That's what's going to be displayed. So you can put it that way. That's not even necessary. So I'm going to say enter your name and then print the name. So let's run that. I'm going to say Python. It say enter your name. I say club, enter, and it prints club. So that's how you get the value. So input tells you, and this is always going to be a string. Always going to be a string. That's something to remember. There's always going to be a string. What that means is if you say enter, for example, let's say number one, we're going to call this N1, N1. And by the way, if you're creating a variable, you cannot start a variable with a number. That's not going to work, but you can start with a letter and then end with a number. That's possible. So we're going to say enter number one. We're going to call it N1. And we're going to copy this and then call this number two so that we know what we are referring to. And what we want to do is add both numbers. What do you think? So we're going to say N1 plus, which is another operator, and N2. Add those number and print them. So basically we're telling Python, look, print the sum of those two numbers. Now let's give it a try. So we're going to run the code again. It says number one, we say 10, and then we say enter number two, we're going to say 20, and we say enter. Whoa, why are we getting 10, 20? Remember what I said? These are string. And what happens when you add two strings? They give you a long string, 10, 20. Now, if you want, there are many ways of doing this. So I'm going to show you one of the ways. So simple way. So you can surround this with another variable type. Remember that int? So we can surround this with a type called int. So that was int. So we basically telling Python, look, the value that's coming that the user is inputting is an int. So let's give it a try again. So we're going to run again and say, okay, cool, that's going to be 10 and that's going to be 20. We get 30. Now, what happened if by mistake we pass, for example, a text? Let's say, yo, and then boom, it says there's an error. Invalid literal int with base 10. Yo, it's not a valid value. So this is good if you're doing, it does some sort of validation for you. So that's one way you can do that. Or you can, let's undo that. Or you can surround these values with the value with int. Why am I making that mistake? Int, and then surround the other value with an int. So that's going to be int surrounded by int. So we need a closing bracket there. And if you run our code one more time, we're going to see 10 and 20, and we get 30. So you can do that. Python knows, and oh, well, we got a number, validation is coming through. So if you do that again, run Python, and we say oh, and you see 1, then it gives you an error. Say, oh, that's not going to work because I'm expecting a number, not a text. I hope that makes sense. So that is the whole idea behind the input and print. And you can come up with all kind of scenario, all kind of use case of programming or something. I mean, you can come up with something where you get the name or the surname and you combine them together and you ask them about their paycheck or something, some sort of information, and then print it nicely at the end of the whole flow, or maybe do some processing for them or some addition for them or number or calculation. Basically, this is what the whole process is all about behind the scene. So just to sum it up and in a few words, so what we basically showing you is how you can start teaching Python to not only rely on information you provide in a hard-code version of it, like a variables, but you can actually implement some solution where input is coming from outside and you're making solutions or processing and giving them a solution based on that input. So this is all on today's video. I hope that you've learned something new, and until next time, keep well. Bye.